Good
Hello,
afternoon.
good morning. So my name is Michael Köberlein. I'm an advisor at the Global Program Sanitation for Millions, and I will chair this webinar on Where Faith Speaks, Washington Religious Institutions. And I welcome you all, and it's good to see such a large audience. We would like to start now. So before I start, I would request everybody, please use your microphone because that causes disturbances. So please mute your microphones, and only if you are about to speak, especially the speakers, mute it on. Let me start, on behalf of Sanitation for Millions. We are a multi-donor platform which is financially supported by the Ministry of Economic Cooperation and Development. Means it's a federal ministry of the German government. We are supported by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, by Water Unite, and by the Hungarian Ministry for Foreign Affairs. We are a global program working in 3 countries currently, which is Pakistan, Uganda, and Jordan, and we have the objective to provide sustainable access to safe sanitation and hygiene. So this is our core topic. And our vision is that the human right to safe water and sanitation is universally accomplished and is part of the Sustainable Development Goal 6 or 6.2. We are Sanitation for Millions. We work on WASH in religious institutions, especially in Jordan. In Jordan, we have collaboration also with the Ministry of Islam and Holy Places. And based on this experience, we thought, okay, yes, religious actors, play an important role, and we saw the relevance of religious stakeholders, religious institutions, also in the Corona crisis now, and the importance, of these actors to provide safe sanitation and hygiene. So in this webinar, we want to development practitioners and religious actors to share their experience on effective collaborations, and we want them to showcase best practices and elaborate their views on the importance of religious actors in achieving universal access to water, sanitation, and hygiene. So before we start now with our speakers and contents, I once again would request you to mute your the microphone and listening and only listening, because any feedback will disturb this webinar. And accordingly, if you have the technology, use a USB headset if possible, because that makes everything easier. We will first have the presentation, and then in the end we will also have a question-answer round. So if you have any kind of questions, please type your questions into the question bar or the chat, and accordingly it will be addressed by us in the webinar. So please be aware that this webinar is being recorded and will be uploaded at the Sustainable Sanitation Alliance, Susanna. And if you do not want to be recorded or you don't want to be part of this, please kindly leave the webinar. So thanks a lot. Before starting now with the webinar, I briefly will introduce, our speakers. And I start, with Mr. Ruben Bercan, who is the Deputy Head of Division of our Commissioning Ministry, the Ministry of Economic Cooperation and Development, and he just recently joined the division, and he's actually in charge of urban development, but he's working in BMZ for more than 3 years now, and earlier worked with the Division of Regional Development Banks, and accordingly he will give later on the introduction to the webinar. So our first speaker is Ms. Miriam Leidinger. She's a colleague of GRZ since 2019, and she's working for the sector program Values, Religion and Development. She has studied theology and Spanish in Münster in Germany and in Lima in Peru. She holds a PhD in systematic theology from the University of Cologne, and before joining GRZ, she worked as a project officer in Theological Research Department of MICHO, which is an international Catholic mission society based in Aachen, Germany. We also have a speaker from the Vatican, which is Mr. Debaldo Vinciguerra. He's a desk officer of the Dicastery for Promoting Human Development, one of the so-called Ministry of the Holy See, the Vatican. And he's a member of this dicastery, which was established only by 2017 by Pope Francis with the objective to promote human development globally. Debaldo joined the Holy See in 2017, and he holds a master in political science and international relations from Italy and France. He earlier worked as a researcher on natural disaster for the Italian Ministry of Defense and also for the Archdiocese of Lima in Peru on different kind of WASH projects. Now he's in charge for coordinating, these external stakeholders of the Vatican, especially with governments, UN organizations, with civil society organizations, but also with members from other Christian denominations and with other religious actors. After him, we have Mr. Dr. Ataur Rahman. He is a renowned Islamic scholar in Pakistan, and he currently is the Imam of Quetta, the capital of the province of Balochistan in Pakistan. He is a member of Wafaq ul Madaris. This is a body that regulates the madrasas in Pakistan, and he also serves as a member of several committees of interfaith harmony in Balochistan in Pakistan. He's also a member of the Balochistan Rural Support Program Advisory Board, and which is our implementing partner for sanitation for millions in Pakistan. After Mr. Rahman, we have Ms. Jumana Aliayet. She's a team leader of Sanitation for Millions program in Jordan since 2019, and he simultaneously also works for the GIZ program, Water and Islam, which is in cooperation with the Ministry of Religious Affairs and Holy Places. She holds a Bachelor of Science in Agricultural Science of the University of Jordan. She has 20 years of professional experience in different kind of functions and is an accredited trainer at the Center for Accreditations and Quality Assurance in Jordan. Last but not least, we also have Mr. Dinesh Suna. He's since 2017 the coordinator of the Economical Water Network of the World Council of Churches, which is based in Geneva, Switzerland. The World Council of Churches is a global fellowship of more than 350 Protestant and Orthodox churches in 110 countries, representing 500 million of Christians. So he has 2 decades of professional experience in different organizations, especially in his home country, which is India. So after now having introduced, the speakers, I would like to start, and I hope Mr. Rupen Verchan was able to connect, and I would request him now to start with his introduction. So please, Rupen, if you can hear me, please, now the word is to you.
Yes, thank you, Michael. I hope everybody can hear me as well. I've used this rare opportunity to unmute my microphone. So good morning, good day, good afternoon to everybody, depending on whatever time zone you've joined this meeting. Michael has already introduced myself, so I don't need to do that. That's very pleasant. So let me just jump right in. It is my pleasure to welcome all of you to this webinar where Faith Speaks, WASH in Religious Institutions, organized by the global program Sanitation for Millions, which is commissioned by my ministry. I was told in advance that there's an audience of more than 200 people from all over the world interested to hear from our distinguished speakers about the interface between religion, development, cooperation, and WASH. I think that is quite an impressive turnout. And I think it is not by coincidence that this topic has drawn such a large audience. In the WASH sector, cooperation and partnerships with religious actors and institutions, there's a huge potential. It is therefore an important contribution of Sanitation for Millions to reach out to religious actors, especially in Jordan, where interventions on WASH in mosques already started in 2017. In Pakistan, Sanitation for Million plans to conduct school competitions on safe sanitation and hygiene in madrasas, the religious schools where our speaker, Dr. Rehman, is engaged in. I would like to use this opportunity to thank our partners in Pakistan and Jordan for the good collaboration. And of course, I would like to convey my greatest respect to our speakers from the Holy See, Mr. Tebaldo Vincingera, and from the World Council of Churches, Mr. Dinesh Suna. It is really an honor to have you here virtually with us today for this webinar. The good relationship of GIZ with the Ministry of Islam and Religious Affairs in Jordan has enabled us to already reach hundreds of thousands of believers in Jordan with messages promoting cleanliness and hygiene. That illustrates how religion is the central source of values for the majority of people in most countries. It has a strong influence on social life and public communication, two factors which have become very crucial nowadays in dealing with the global COVID-19 pandemic. If a paradigm shift towards sustainable development is to become a success, we need to combine all our strengths, and religious actors are crucial partners. We as German Development Corporation are well aware of the potentially high influence of religion and faith-based organizations such as Bread of the World or Islamic Relief on social equality, justice, and the support for and empowerment of vulnerable and disadvantaged people. Faith-based organizations are part of the global civil society and profoundly contribute to development issues. They, for instance, play a vital part in public welfare and run many schools and hospitals. Safe sanitation and hygiene, as we will hear today, play a crucial role in these institutions. Hence, we are keen to shed some light on current partnerships, learn from experienced practitioners the highlights and bottlenecks that come along working on WASH in religious institutions, and learn more about the impact of religious and cultural norms on safe sanitation and hygiene. Coming to an end, I wish us all a very informative and successful webinar today, and thank you very much, and look forward to what is to come. Since you're all muted, I have no idea if anybody heard me. I really hope you did.
Thank you, Ruben. Thanks for this introduction. Yes, you were. Everybody was able to hear you, and thanks for this kind of engaging and committed words. And this is really a good introduction, and for giving a kind of theoretical background. As the next speaker, I would like to ask Ms. Miriam Leitinger to start, and I will now open her presentation. Miriam, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you also hear me?
Yes, it's fine. Thanks.
Perfect.
So the word is you now.
Yes, okay, great. So first of all, thank you very much, Michael, for the kind introduction, and I'm very happy to be part of this webinar. I would like to start with a brief introduction into the overarching topic of religion and development. And so let's go right ahead so that the other speakers have enough time also for their presentation. So first of all, why religion matters. Being religious is globally the norm. From a German perspective, it might not be obvious, but however, in partner countries of the German Development Corporation, a clear majority of the population is religious. Many of these people describe their religion as decisive for their everyday life, as you can see on the map. This map is taken from a 2009 poll by Gallup, and it shows that people in the respective country in darker blue would describe themselves as more religious. According to the demographics, also a demographic study of the Pew Research Center from 2012, the number is even rising. By 2060, up to nearly 8.5 out of 9.5 billion people will be religious, and only around 1.2 billion will not be affiliated with any religion. This contradicts the theory of secularization, which is mostly advocated in the global north, namely that modernization will inevitably lead to secularization. In secular development cooperation practice, hence, religiousness of local employees or partners is rather too often only seen as one of the local circumstances, and it is much too rarely looked at in a systematic way. At the institutional level in Germany, as Ruben Wertjan also pointed out, working with religious actors, nevertheless, has always been an important topic, but it was mostly largely left to the Protestant and Catholic churches. The central church agencies receive a budget of annually around 150 million euros in order to implement development projects with mostly Christian partners self-responsibly. So then why German development cooperation works with religious actors? It is not a surprise, first of all, as I already pointed out, that not many years ago it was still frowned upon to spend time on religious actors or communities in German bilateral development cooperation, that the mentioned church-led projects. After all, nobody wanted to raise any suspicion of doing, in brackets, or in missionary work. But this changed 2014 under Minister Dr. Gerd Müller. Since then, the German Federal Ministry of Economic Cooperation and Development, the BMZ, has started to look at the potential of religious actors and to include them systematically into development projects, with the aim to close the gap between the work done by the church agencies on the one hand and the secular bilateral development cooperation on the other. As you know all from experience, religious communities are important local partners. They secure the social infrastructure in many countries and, for example, make up to 50% of those social services in sub-Saharan Africa. They have also contributed positively on many occasions to processes of reconciliation. And oftentimes, this shows the special trust of humans in faith and value-based organizations and leaders. They have a high credibility within their communities. Thus, if religion plays a central role for people on a global level, it must also play an important role in development politics. And it would be negligent from our point of view to ignore this role of religions in international politics. Now I would like to say something on the ambivalence of religion. I think, Michael, you have to go back one slide. It will come, or maybe, or is it the next after the? Okay, it's lost somewhere. Okay, then let's please go back to why German development cooperation works with religious actors. I'm sorry, there are the ambivalences on this slide. So sorry. Let's talk a bit about this ambivalence, because I think it's important when we talk about also the positive side of cooperating with religious actors. Because at the same time, we know that religion itself and the role of religious actors is ambivalent. All religions have peaceful traditions, as well as traditions that legitimize violence. Wars have been conducted in the name of religion for many hundreds of years. Although a closer look at the underlying dynamics of many long-lasting conflicts shows that religious motives often serve as political means. Religion is emotionally highly charged, less negotiable, and creates identity. This is why it is instrumentalized for non-religious goals, to divide communities and to justify the use of violence. Now, in development cooperation, we do not seek theological debates, but socio-political dialogue. Although, as Michael mentioned, I'm a theologian, and sometimes I also like the theological debates, of course, in secular development cooperation. It's not, the aim cannot be to engage in these theological debates. But at the same time, it's also important to have a certain religious literacy and to know about the differing views that exist within religious communities. Because it will help us, and it is crucial, to find and strengthen the right actors to talk to, actors who use the potential of religion in a positive way that promotes peace. So now we can go to the next slide, which is, I would like to sum up 5 reasons why religious actors can promote sustainable development. So first, they think beyond project lifetimes. Unlike development cooperation staff, they are permanently there on the ground, have an interest in sustainable peace and a large local network. Second, their credibility, acceptance, and legitimacy. People in need often seek initial refuge with religious communities. Many trust religious organizations more than other social institutions. And third, they are locally present. Religious organizations are often active before violent conflicts erupt. In hot phases of conflicts, they are often the only structures left that can ensure basic supplies in areas such as health, education, and humanitarian aid. Fourth, they are small but mighty. Many FBOs might be small and unknown, but together they account for 15 to 17% of all international humanitarian aid. In states ruled by authoritarian regimes, faith-based organizations, often the only remaining forces of civil society. And fifth, they have many helping hands. FBOs have many voluntary helpers and are able to mobilize them quickly in crisis situations, as we see, for example, at the moment in the corona crisis. And most of these volunteers are women. So, to sum up, why religion should not be left out of development cooperation. On the contrary, we are convinced that where religion is misused to secure power and authority, or to polarize and recruit people, wherever religion is part of the problem, it must also become part of the solution. And this is a quote from the BMZ strategy from 2016 that I would like to introduce now and which I would like to end my presentation. So the BMZ strategy, Religious Communities as Partners for Development Cooperation from 2016. Let me introduce it to you briefly. The strategy systematically takes religion and religious actors into consideration in order to engage in dialogue with them, as I just tried to point out. The measures that it includes point out the positive contributions of religion to achieving the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And by the way, these 17 goals contain a canon of values that religion communities have influenced to a great extent and in many ways, as for example, poverty, health, education, good governance, justice, peace, and the integrity of creation. And it is important to note that the ideas with this strategy was not to take away partners that have traditionally worked with the churches or to replace their work. On the contrary, rather it is about getting a hold of religious actors and leading figures whom church-based development cooperation has not yet or cannot reach. So the strategy proposes 10 measures in total, which entail, and now we can go to the measures, Michael, first, mainstreaming the topic. As we can see, for example, with measure 8 here. Second, implementing pilots in partner countries with religious actors as new partners, as we can see, for example, in measure 1, or as we could see before. And third, fostering international cooperation, especially through the multi-actor partnership, international partnership on religion and sustainable development called PART, which would be measure 10. Here you have an overview of all the different measures, and as I said, mainstreaming, so increase religious literacy, measure 8, is very important to us. Then implementing pilots, finding new partners, measure 1. And then thirdly, fostering international cooperation, which would be especially measure 10, combine efforts and create international partnership. So with this, I would like to end my presentation. If you have any questions, please also address and write to the GIZ sector program, Values, Religion and Development. Also, if you're interested to learn more about the partnership part, which I could not present to you now because I didn't want to take time from the next speakers. So thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to hearing more.
Thank you very much, Miriam. That was very impressive and also gives us a good background, you know, why, at least from German Development Cooperation, we look or we seek partners in the religious communities, you know, partners for development. And this is also what we have experienced in our 3 partner countries, Uganda, Jordan, and Pakistan. Without a close dialogue and cooperation with religious actors, actually, all our technical assistance to the countries is only halfway through, because we need this access and the credibility of those religious actors to really have access to the people, and also to really reach them, and to in the end, also be a part of the whole movement, to have sustainable development all over the world as for the Sustainable Development Goals. And now it's interesting to see, what our colleague from the Vatican, Mr. Debalto Vincinquera, has to say. So, Debalto, if you can hear us, please now.
Yes. Yes. Good morning from Rome. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so good morning again, and I commend the German Development Cooperation for organizing this webinar, and thank Michael Koberlein for inviting me. Michael, when you invited me, it was a couple of days before the Holy Thursday. It is the day in which the Catholic Church repeats the foot washing by Jesus, a gesture of purification as well as of service, a gesture of love, which is still an important symbol. And during each Mass, the priest washes his hands, repeating, "Lord, wash away my iniquity and cleanse me from my sin." An African priest told me, during Ebola, the priest washes his hands very seriously in front of the whole assembly with soap and water. And just before giving the communion, he pours disinfectant on his hands too. Please, next slide. So the church in ancient time urged her followers to go to public bath. It contributed to good health. The church built public bathing facilities that were separate for both sexes, women and men, near monasteries and near pilgrimage sites, since the early Middle Age. Lavabo were built in religious buildings, so you can see a medieval lavabo on the corner of the picture. And also think of the sanctuary of Lourdes in France. Well, I will not analyze longer these elements of the Christian tradition. Let us just recall that water has a religious value, which can be a motivation for its use, for its respectful use. Water is still perceived as holy, as connected to blessing, purification, and hygiene. And this is not limited to Hebrew and Christian traditions. It is an important factor in many religions, in religious life, in religious institutions. A few years ago in Rome, showers were installed at St. Peter Basilica for homeless. And the recent document of the Dicastery for Promoting Integral Human Development, so it is entitled Aqua Fons Vitae, underlined the human right to water and sanitation, the value of water for collaboration and wash, among other points. Of course, these are examples from the Vatican only, but the interaction between religious teaching, so the Gospel's love for the others, human dignity, why I should care, and so on. So the interaction between the religious teaching on one hand and development efforts, solidarity, on the other hand, are usually good and consistent in many countries. This is because the Church is committed in supporting the integral, sustainable, inclusive development of population. And this includes, obviously, WASH, both in ordinary development projects and during emergencies. WASH projects with equipment, infrastructure, training, financing, and also advocacy, education. Our own development implementation experts are well connected to theologians, to doctrine team, and also well connected to other groups from civil society, other religions, UN, government agencies, and so on. The exchange of experiences among countries is facilitated, for example, with the Caritas network and within religious congregations, such as the Brothers Hospitallers of St. John of God or the Daughters of Charity. In the next slide, I will briefly present the recent commitment of the Church in the field of WASH, giving 3 examples. The first example is from the Catholic Medical Mission Board from the US. They are partnering with national and local leaders to install basic hand-washing stations in healthcare facilities. This short-term solution will help while they continue to install boreholes, water storage tanks, and piped water at all health facilities to protect staff and patients. They are teaching healthcare workers about proper hand-washing techniques and so on. With funding, they look to install water storage tanks and sanitation and hygiene stations for 30 health facilities in 5 countries. The second example is from the Uganda Catholic Medical Bureau. They issued guidance to diocesan health coordinators, hospital managers, in order to face the COVID-19 pandemic, and many other bishop conferences did similar guidance. The guidance stressed the importance of proper wash practices and of hand washing in as many places as possible. And the third example is from Catholic Relief Services, so a member of Caritas. They are supporting local health facilities in many countries with equipment and training for frontline health workers and resources for additional health staff, and by deploying wash stations and supplies for local health facilities. CRS is also enhancing community awareness and WASH programming by improving WASH at the household, where the communities, the parish, the monastery is, and also at the facility level. When necessary, using radio messages, posters, leaflets, and other materials. They also offer training and supplies for community volunteers to carry out awareness campaigns. So next slide, please. I will finish this presentation commenting with you a few lessons to be learned. The first one is subsidiarity. It is a principle, go local, go for the local level of effectiveness, understand their need, their vision. The higher levels of coordination and management are at the service of the local level. The second point, training, education, culture, a culture of WASH, water in culture. Well, I will not develop this point, so important, but at least about training. Let's remind that the procedures for WASH require discipline. It requires vigilance, daily discipline. And about preventive maintenance, frankly, it is not easy, not attractive to get funding for WASH maintenance. Donors may prefer to pay for a new equipment, something more visible than just WASH. And then really, who is in charge of WASH? Health, medicine is the task of doctors, fine. Water, drinking water is for supply, the water guy, fine. But who is in charge of WASH? Is there someone precisely appointed for it? Please never forget human rights. Human rights stem from human dignity. So sanitation and drinking water are not optional. They are not for the rich ones only. So no discrimination. And remember that migrants, prisoners, and minorities in many insecure contexts require a special attention. Now about motivation. Motivation from genuine religious values. We need motivation. Yes, we need it. For perseverance and for commitment. I think even for the WASH experts themselves. Motivation for caring for the others, for real development, for caring for the environment. Religious group, this has been very well explained by the previous speaker, with the clergy, with lay people, with volunteers, with school. We have a long-term presence within the communities. We can reach the poorest, the unreachable, the excluded ones. So we can be key partners for other actors. And collaboration, of course, needs time. Time to know each other, time to share a journey, time to share hope, to build respect and trust. But frankly, collaboration is the only way. Now, be aware, a question remains, is water high enough on our agendas, on the global agenda? Maybe yes, maybe no, but maybe WASH is the poor cousin of water, remember. So next slide, please. I will briefly comment on these weeks of efforts during this COVID-19 pandemic. So obviously, with this pandemic, we are more aware than ever about the importance of WASH. But emergency relief, so humanitarian efforts in these weeks appear, at least according to several experts I talk with, these efforts appear weak about WASH. Perhaps because this outbreak is striking countries such as Europe and the US where WASH is not a major concern. So is it still needed to make the case for why WASH must be included when addressing COVID? Second point, these emergency humanitarian efforts are colliding with long-term, well-known development weaknesses about WASH, about the lack of capacities from some governments to manage large-scale plans, about the environment, which is seriously deteriorated in some areas, and problems of a weak social fabric, of institutional economic problems, and so on. So it is so hard to address COVID when there are strong long-term weaknesses. So after COVID, after this emergency, we may experience a sustained economic disruption. Maybe many small, medium business will be ruined. We shall consider the need to prevent famine, starvation, and multiple forms of insecurity. The process of globalization will remain seriously hampered, and we shall consider then the need to strengthen national capacities, local capacities. Well, in all these cases, in all the scenarios, WASH will always be central. I finish with a question. Maybe this historic moment is really an opportunity to rethink with solidarity and with responsibility our development model as one human family having one common home. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dibaldo, for your impressive presentation and for presenting your viewpoints and your assessments from the perspective of the Holy See, and also thanking for bridging this webinar, the current COVID-19 crisis, because it's very closely interlinked, to WASH and safe hygiene, and accordingly, it's something we from the Development Corporation and those working on WASH issues really can contribute with our measures, to improve the situation, to do pandemic prevention, and in the end, to be part of the whole approach to prevent against this global pandemic crisis. So now, as next speaker, coming now from the Holy See and Rome, we will shift now to Quetta in Pakistan, and Dr. Ataur Rahman. As said, he's Imam of Quetta, the capital of Balochistan in Pakistan. So please, Dr. Rahman, now the word is yours.
Good afternoon. Washington Islamic institution, religious institutions, which is that today.
Please, can you come a little bit closer to the microphone because so that you will be clearer. Thanks.
So I am speaking from far-flung area of Pakistan, Balochistan, where we have 12.3 million population and 347,000 square kilometer area with the least wash facilities and awareness. Wash sector like GIZ, UNICEF, Oxfam, Islamic Relief, BRSP and many others are working on wash in schools, healthcare centers and religious institutions. I am speaking about the practical work because I know we want wash on the micro level, and that can be trickled down or that can be shifted to the micro level, people to one by one persons. It's high time to have close coordination among all actors to work together to achieve SDG 6 and 6.2, which was mentioned already. Religious leaders are playing active role in raising awareness among public masses, especially in response to COVID-19. WASH actors provide very open and friendly space to all religious actors since working with GIZ, UNICEF and BRSP. And BRSP has registered more than 270 madrasas and they improve the infrastructure evolution places there. And BRSP has also registered more than 500,000 students in all over Balochistan which are studying in madrasa. They have a planning to take all of them in this program. Religious leaders must be involved in decision making. Speak loud. Brief background about WASH in Islam. Islam is an Abrahamic monotheistic religion having a social system based on revelation. Believe that the sources of Islamic teachings are four. Quran, which is very clear, 450 pages, a written text, no difference from Morocco till Indonesia, and Sunnah, the books with ahadith are present, ijtihad and ijma. The second revelation was Surah Mudassir, Ya ayyuhal mudassir qum fa'anzir wa rabbaka fakabbir wa siyabaka fatahir wa rujza fahdir, where it is mentioned in my slide also that purify your clothes and be away from the filths. Hands, clean hands help keep our food, drinking water, dress, body, face, and it should be also, the hands are involved in all of them, cleanliness in all of them. And what the most important point in Islam is the 5 objectives of the Islamic Sharia: protection of life, wealth, respect, faith, and intellect. And the protection of life is the most important one, which is constantly exposed to infections. And hand hygiene is the single most effective way to prevent such infections. Don't know that it in my slide, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu idha qumtum ila as-salat faghsilu wujuhakum wa aydiyakum ila al-marafiq wamsahu bi ru'usikum wa arjulakum ila al-ka'bayn wa in kuntum junuban fatahharu. Allah says, O believers, when you stand up to pray, wash your faces and your heads up to the elbow, and wipe your heads and your feet up to the ankles. If you are defiled, purify yourself. These all things are very briefly and clearly mentioned in Quran and in Ahadith. Interface, the influence of the religion in hygiene, practices and cleanliness, it is eminent. Interface between wash development actor and religious institution, that was taken by in your program. It is most important. Lessons which we learned and success story using religious concepts. It is we can share, and it is in next slide. These all ayah from verses from Quran, the citations are there, and lesson learned and success story. So it is very important that due to speeches on wash by religious leaders in reference to Quran and Sunnah, now community takes special care of their personal hygiene. Religious leaders have say in the society, so now even the rigid part of the society is also sensitized towards wash. Due to the involvement of religious leaders, the religious groups are also open to listen to NGOs and INGOs because they are working for this noble cause. تعاونوا على البر والتقوى ولا تعاونوا على الإثم والعدوان. Due to the spread of COVID-19, there is a special attention towards religious leaders. Hand washing has always been given due consideration in Islam. Nobody can enter the mosque without washing his face, his hands, and his coat, and without a clean dress, without a clean body. And Ibrahim alayhi salam was asked, طهر بيتي للطائفين والعاكفين والركع السجود. And it is a practice because it is very necessary and it is obligatory. Due to the spread of the COVID-19, there is a special attention towards religious leaders. Hand washing has always been given due consideration in Islam, and now it has been highlighted in front of the society and realized by the masses that 1400 years ago this teaching was there. So that is a new discovery for them. Like always, wash intervention are allowed and accepted in madrasa and mosque by the community and religious leaders, both through wash actors. Therefore, wash actors must involve religious leaders to plan their programs with strategy, with aim, with objectives, with all these necessaries to include it in program in accordance with Islamic teachings. I think the literature and the material should be collected and info kit for the religious leader and for the community. It is very necessary. Now, bottlenecks with challenges we were facing, religious leaders are not taken on board in time. At time of program, if they were engaged initially, it will be more beneficial. The cultural and social lifestyles and values, these are all again hampering and big hurdle in the wash work. Lack of information in the community, awareness that you know. And the fourth point is the lack of wash facilities in schools, healthcare, and madrasas because of the economical constraints, because of other reasons. We have not, unfortunately, in organized infrastructure everywhere in our places. And the last, not the least, the misconception about the NGOs and INGOs, which is now in the mind of the most of the people of the religious institutions, but still there is a big hurdle, and it should be overcome by a proper and good material distribution, duly cited from Quran and Hadith, and the people will accept, because the people are not accepting the leaders. They accepting whether it is said by God and Prophet, and they have a very big respect for these two things. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to talk about all over the world and globe, and with the people they are concerned, most concerned about this topic. Any question, you are welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rahman, for this presentation and really showcasing, the role of you as a religious leader now, not only in the COVID-19 pandemic crisis, but also showing your openness to bridge the gap between, let's say, civil society organizations and secular organizations and you as a religious organization, because you really showed, the relevance for these collaborations, and we are very thankful, as Sanitation for Millions, that you're open for collaborating on washing madrasas, and we look forward, to really expand this collaboration and see, how we can do the best, for the people in Balochistan. Okay, thanks a lot, Dr. Rahman. So now we shift from the situation in Pakistan to our other partner country, which is Jordan. And my colleague, Jumana Alayet, who's a GIZ senior advisor, will now showcase you, our work in Jordan together with the religious Ministry of Religious Affairs and Holy Places. So, Jumana, the word is now to you.
Good day for you all from Jordan. Just a very quick overview about Jordan for those who don't know this information. Actually, Jordan is a small country. It's located in the Middle East, about 90,000 square kilometers. Population in Jordan are 10 million people, out of which 96% of them are Muslims, Sunni Muslims, and about 4% are Christians. Actually, the constitution in Jordan provides for freedom to practice one's religion and faith in accordance to customs observed by the kingdom. Concerning, because we are talking about our achievements concerning Sanitation for Million in Jordan, we are currently working with the Ministry of Islamic Affairs in Jordan. And because, of course, the majority are Muslims, there are about 7,000 mosques in Jordan. Imams working, number of imams. Imam is the, of course, like Dr. Abdul Rahman from Pakistan. They are the leaders, religious leaders in the mosques. We have about 2,500 imams. And there are muazzins. Muazzins are the staff working in the mosques, assisting the imam and calling for the prayers. There are about 3,000 muazzins in Jordan. And we have the wa'idat. The wa'idat are the women preachers. They are the preachers who talk to the local community women about religion and, all Islamic reference information. In Jordan, we have about 500 wa'ida, which is the women preachers. Actually, we are currently coordinating, working in close coordination with the imam, the muazzins, and the wa'idat, of course, under the umbrella of the Ministry of Islamic Affairs. Actually, religious actors are partners for development. Why? Because, of course, religious leaders are deeply interested, and this is the case in Jordan. Most people are believers, and they are deeply trusting the imams and the religious leaders in the community. They are well connected locally in the local communities. They are influential, and they have networks for mobilization. They can deliver information based on religious argumentation regarding wash and hygiene in the communities. And usually, imams and religious leaders are by default skilled, influential communicators. They can highlight water in faith tradition. They can reinforce good hygiene practices and provide even facilities in places of worship, like the sanitary facilities provided in the mosques for ablution and for hygiene. Of course, they are very good tool, or they can act as a strong way for outreach and spreading information about WASH. Next, please. Yeah. Next, please, Michael. Yeah. In Sanitation for Millions, actually, we work hand in hand, as I mentioned, with the religious actors. We are currently working with the Ministry of Islamic Affairs on two main pillars. One pillar is the construction measures. We are working on rehabilitation of sanitary units in mosques, establishments of grey water systems for irrigation of gardens in mosques to be available for the local community, and as a good example for increasing the acceptance for the decentralized water reuse. There is also the operation and maintenance concept, which is the housemaster concept. Actually, we are currently preparing a housemaster concept paper, and we will talk about it in more details in the coming webinar in May 13th. On May 13th, for anyone interested, you can attend that also. Regarding the operation and facility maintenance, actually, we are doing very good work with Ministry of Islamic Affairs regarding the rehabilitation and establishment of sanitary units at the mosques. We provided, as you see in the top picture, the maintenance vehicles to the Ministry of Awqaf, and these vehicles are used for making the maintenance work at the mosques in all governorates. We are receiving very well-organized reports, maintenance reports, showing the work done in the mosques, and of course, the muazzins in the mosques are trained on plumbing training, and they are we are improving the capabilities for them in completing the maintenance work and the plumbing work, which is actually we are getting very good reflection from Ministry of Islamic Affairs regarding the good quality maintenance work which is now going on in the mosques, and they are avoiding, of course, any blockages, any problems regarding the maintenance, which is making things more clear, more clean, avoiding any hygiene or problems at the mosques. Regarding the capacity building and hygiene behavior, we are working on behavior change, of course, regarding hygiene with the wa'idat, the women preachers, and they are now they are trained on the hygiene guidebook, which was produced also with the Ministry of Islamic Affairs, and the IFTA department, which is the department that works on Islamic, providing Islamic advices to people regarding actions that follow the Islamic Holy Quran and Sunnah, Prophet Muhammad Hadith Sharif. And it's good to say that the IFTA department, it was nominated as the second most trusted public institution in Jordan. So people trust very well these people working in the Islamic IFTA department, and the also Ministry of Awqaf, which is the Islamic departments. And so
Jumana, I think we have lost you. Oops. Jumana, can you hear us? I think there might be a technical problem. Okay, I think I was waiting for a few seconds, and I think there must be a technical problem in Amman in Jordan. So I would recommend that we give Jumana the chance to proceed in case she can solve the technical problem. And at this point of time, before to continue, we continue now with the presentation of Dinesh. And wait if Jumana can reconnect to finish her presentation maybe later on. So I hope you have understanding for that. Sorry for this problem. Okay, so in that sense, I would recommend and I would request Dinesh, can you hear me? Am I the problem? Okay, I see, I think there must be some technical problem because many of the participants also, are not connected anymore. So it seems, there is some technical problem. So in that sense, also Dinesh, in the end, is not in the line anymore. So in that sense, I would come to some questions. The thing is, there was one question in the end, to Miriam from the sector program, and the question was, if you can provide, some examples of what has been done by German Development Corporation to really increase religious literacy. So maybe to this question you already can give an answer, and we hope, that those people who are not connected anymore can reconnect again. So, but let's go to some of the questions. And the first question was to you, Miriam.
Yes, okay. Thank you, Michael. And hello, everybody again. Thank you very much for the question. In fact, we exist since the sector program exists since 2016. And since then, there have been different approaches to this topic. So on the one hand, there have been workshops for GIZ staff on religious literacy. And what we do now is mostly also accompanying our pilot projects is that we do work on demand. So if from the GIZ structures there comes a question, we're interested in enhancing our projects and to engage more with religious actors, we provide, for example, religious and traditional actors mappings. So that's an instrument to map the partners that are in the country, in the region, or in the sector, in the WASH sector, for example. And combined with this instrument, with this mapping, or on its own, we also provide trainings, religious literacy trainings. So you can invite us to come and train you. We did one, for example, last year on Mindanao, the Philippines, with a project working with internally displaced people. We had one in Nigeria, which was especially on values in development cooperation, and also before in Iraq. So we're always happy to receive questions, and then we design tailor-made religious literacy trainings. And we have a brochure called On This Side of Eden, and I'm happy to share this brochure with you after this webinar. Did that answer your question?
Okay, so I see, because quite many people, have been technical problems, and no idea, where the problem is coming from. So maybe there are some other questions in the round to Miriam and those speakers who are still online. I can still see our colleague from Pakistan, and maybe also Dibalto is still here, but our colleague from Geneva and from Jordan now have some technical problems. So anybody else who has some questions to the speakers? Okay. So is Dibalto still online? Because there was one question to Dibalto. Or does he also have technical problems? I see there. Okay, so maybe in the end, are my colleague from Pakistan still online?
Yes, we can hear you.
So maybe you can shortly exemplify, the thing is Dr. Rehman or you, what kind of collaboration, we actually intend to do in the future, and what kind of outcomes or impacts you expect, in terms of our WASH interventions and the collaboration, let's say, with BSRB as a civil society organization and religious leader. Maybe you can add a few words to this topic.
Actually, first of all, it is very important that we should arrange an info kit for the religious leaders, and it should be included all of the points from Quran and Sunnah, also from the objectives raised by the WASH. Then we will register all the madrasas and the religious institution, even in masjid and mosques. We can, on the Union Council level, which are 700 in Balochistan, to bring the people for capacity building on that material also, and also to give them a practical know-how, what is required in the life. And we can also distribute the material for the for provided material to the people. That's three basic criteria we can adopt and we can take in our planning, and inshallah we will on the micro level, because if we will train in each union council 100% from female 50 and male 50 capacity building and practically camps, so that will we can achieve the goal, and that will help us. So that is the strategy which we can follow on micro level to reach the people.
Just to add to Dr. Ataraman's point, that we as a GIZ Sanitation for Million, we intend to work. You were disconnected from the presentation. Do you hear us?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. So we intend to work in the madrasas and expand our program from public institution to madrasas, and we will take our WASH program into the madrasas with the help of our Islamic scholars. And the school competitions, which we intend to have in the schools, we also want to expand that school WASH competition to the madrasas as well.
Okay, yes, that's the way forward. Now I'm looking for the way forward to this webinar, because I see there's still some problem in Jordan, and also with our colleague from Switzerland, from the World Council of Churches. So in that sense, I'm waiting still for the feedback, if we can solve the problem. But is anybody else who has problems to our distinguished speaker from Pakistan or to Ms. Miriam, please come out with your questions, because now you have the opportunity. I can see there's no question, So maybe Nora and Alice, did you were you able to connect to Jumana and Dinesh again? I didn't receive feedback, so there must be really a technical program.
Yes, Michael. So unfortunately, Jumana is not making it back to the call. I don't know what the difficulty is, but also we are losing participants. So yeah, I don't know. I suggest we would rather just put all the presentations and the webinar recording so far on the Susanna website. And I will send the link of the Susanna website with all the presentation to the participating people in the call here today and to the people who registered for the call. And then you can continue the discussion and about the topic on the discussion forum on the Susanna website. This is what I would suggest we could do right now if there are no further questions.
Yes, I see, that I got now feedback, there must be some technical problem. It's not only with us, it's also with other units. So I would really follow the suggestion of Alice, and would like to thank you all the speakers and would like to apologize for this technical problem, which unfortunately is not in our hands. And we will in the end upload, the presentations on the Susanna website, and we'll send all your participants, an email and point out, when the presentations are uploaded. And of course, we try to continue this dialogue and hope, the next time, we have such a webinar, the technique, will support us, and there's no technical problem, and we have to talk to our IT. And you get all the information from us, and please contact us, if you have further queries on the issue of washing in religious institutions and collaborations with religious actors, because it's a topic we also would like to proceed in countries outside of Jordan and Pakistan. So in that sense, thanks for your patience and sorry and apologies, for this technical dilemma we can't solve. And we close now the webinar, and everything will be uploaded to Susanna. So thanks a lot, and we will attempt, another trial soon, and then we will continue this dialogue. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael, for your great moderation.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you all.
To all the
I
participants.
thank all of you, especially
Thank you very much.